You are listening to the Atlanta Real Estate Forum radio show, all about real estate edition, shining a light on the movers and shakers in the real estate industry, the home builders, developers, realtors, and suppliers making it all happen.
Good morning and welcome back to Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio's All About Real Estate edition. I'm your host, Carol Morgan, and I'd like to give special thanks to our 2022 show sponsor, New American Funding. It is thanks to their generous support that this show is possible. Today's guest is focused on solving some of the real estate market's biggest challenges, including affordable housing. So I'd like to say welcome to Rachel Carey. She is the Chief Real Estate Officer of the Westside Future Fund. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Very happy to have you here. This is going to be a fun conversation, but let's just start off. Will you just give our audience a little bit of information on you and your background?
Sure. So like you said, I'm Chief Real Estate Officer at Westside Future Fund. I've been with the organization for just about 4 years. I moved here to Atlanta 5 years ago from New York City. And prior to that, I had spent all my career in affordable housing finance. So I was excited to come to Atlanta and I'm hoping to work with Westside Future Fund actually, so that I could, kind of take that in a different direction with community development.
That's really exciting. In New York City, you have no accent. How is that possible?
Well, I grew up in Kentucky and then spent about, 10, 15 years in New York. So I've been kind of up and down the East Coast and in the South.
So your accent's been neutralized. It's neither Southern nor Northern. It's perfect. So, well, talk a little bit about Westside Future Fund and the areas it represents.
Sure. So Westside Future Fund was launched in late 2013 as a public-private partnership around the time the city was committing financing for the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And alongside of that, there was the idea that in addition to the investment in the stadium, there needed to be some real investment in the communities directly west of the stadium. So those are the neighborhoods that we serve: English Avenue, Vine City, the Atlanta University Center, Ashview Heights, Just Us, and the Booker T. Washington neighborhoods. And, they are really important historic neighborhoods to the city. They're some of the oldest in the city. And unfortunately, some of the most disinvested. And so the thought was that, it's time to really invest in these neighborhoods and have an organization that is going to be committed to sort of a transformational, holistic revitalization.
Yeah, that's cool. Those are really nice, fun areas of town too, that really are being redeveloped and, coming along. Well, let's talk a little bit about your Home on the West Side program. I know it's got two different focus areas, housing and cradle to career education, but let's focus on housing today. So talk a little bit about talk a little bit about the overview of it, and then we can dive into some of the specifics.
Sure. So we like to say that we're in the housing business because we're in the people business. And when we first started, working on our impact areas in 2016, 2017, and mixed income housing really rose to the fore because, exactly like you say, redevelopment was coming, and there was a lot of, worry that with that would come displacement of residents who have been living in these communities for generations and who don't deserve to be pushed out because other
Right.
are coming into play. And so we created a set of community retention guidelines, which prioritize people who live, work, and learn in the community for the housing that we understood that we needed to develop, to ensure that along with all this market rate redevelopment, there was this kind of bedrock of affordable housing options for both rental and for sale, to be able to allow people who want to stay to live here in high quality, affordable housing, and to attract others who have a connection to the community.
Yeah, that's a fantastic mission. How does rental housing play into that? What can you offer people as it relates to the rentals in the area?
Sure. So we have a goal of getting to 800 units of rental housing that's affordable to families earning 60% of the area median income or less, so about $48,000 per year. And where we are today in that is we have just over 180 units of rental housing, some of which are properties that we bought because they were naturally occurring affordable housing and they were on the market at risk of being lost, their affordability being lost. So we bought those to preserve affordability. And then alongside that, we were also acquiring vacant properties and land for the purposes of building or renovating new affordable housing.
So if you're acquiring properties, obviously you're renovating them as well?
That's right.
Yeah.
We've bought a lot of, vacant kind of, gutted out, older apartment complexes. Some of them on the market, some of them we've gotten through RFPs from Invest Atlanta. And so then we take them through the full development process. We architects to design the renovation. We bid it out, we develop the projects, and then we lease them up through Home on the Westside. And in doing that, our waiting list comes from Home on the Westside and prioritizes people who have been in the community the longest, who have the strongest ties to the community, to ensure that those people have priority for the work that we're doing in the housing that we're producing.
So what do you do with the vacant lots you purchase? Are you all actively building on those as well?
Well, we've been trying to amass a pipeline, right? Because see, just like everybody, prices going up.
Right.
And so we understand that to ensure that we have the ability to preserve that for the community and for developing affordable housing, we buy lots and then we maintain them and mow them while we kind of work through the development pipeline. So we, have houses that we've bought that have been abandoned, that have been boarded up. We make sure they're absolutely secure. We have landscaping crews that go out and do, the maintenance, the leaf cutting, the leaf blowing, the lawn cutting, to also help reduce blight in the community. And all the while we're doing that, we're going through the process of coming up with the plans, finding the builders, going through the permitting with the city so that we can ultimately start construction.
Wow. You guys have got a lot going on.
It takes a lot longer than you might think to just one single house develop.
No, I get it. Just the permitting alone takes forever.
Exactly.
Well, talk about how, Home on the Westside addresses homeownership.
Sure. So, we recognize that in addition to having affordable rental housing, having affordable homeownership opportunities is really key to help families thrive and to help them access, creation of household wealth. And so through Home on the Westside, we develop these single family homes. We sell them to people who have come in through Home on the Westside, who have established their connection to the community. And then if needed, we provide down payment assistance of up to $60,000 per home. So we are building the homes and selling them at cost. We're selling them to people who have this established connection with the community. And then we're providing the financial support to help make homeownership a reality.
Wow. So they can literally buy the house through you, get help with down payment assistance, and then you'll help them with the financing as well.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. So we work with the city's down payment assistance. So a purchaser who's been qualified for a mortgage lender, but has, maybe even up to a, $80,000 gap in between what they can afford and what the home costs, can go get down payment assistance from the city through Invest Atlanta. They can get down payment assistance from Atlanta Housing, and then they can come to us to fill the remainder of that gap.
Wow. That's fun. That is just fantastic. Well,
Thanks.
and then you also have this Anti-Displacement Tax Fund. How does that work?
Sure. So the Anti-Displacement Tax Fund was actually one of our original initiatives. It was our very housing initiative. It was launched in 2017. And the idea behind that was to protect existing legacy homeowners in the neighborhood, right? Because as property values increase, we know that means property tax along with that. And that's just really makes continued home ownership sustainable for so many families, senior families, lower income families who are already homeowners, but who are threatened by displacement for not being able to pay those property taxes. And so through the Anti-Displacement Tax Fund, legacy homeowners who are under a certain income threshold can apply to us to have their income taxes frozen for as long as they own the house.
Wow.
They will pay the portion of the taxes that the tax level from the year that they applied for, but we will pay the increase.
So you guys are doing lots of really amazing real work, clearly. Do you know statistics? How many, so I know you see you've got like 180 rental units now, but how many homeowners have you been able to either support or help get into homes? Do you have those stats as well?
Sure. Well, we are at the beginning of our
Uh-huh.
ownership initiative. So to date, we have sold 6 homes.
Okay.
Prior to that, we were in a partnership with the Atlanta Police Foundation as part of their Westside Blue security plan. They were developing housing for officers to come live in the community.
Oh, wow.
Strengthen, relationships between, police officers in the community and to provide enhanced security. As part of their commitment to build 25 officer homes, they also committed to building resident homes. And so when they built 5 of those in English Avenue, we partnered with them to provide the down payment assistance on that. So that was
fantastic.
And yeah, it was a great program, and it was, a great pilot for us to understand how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
This is really new for us. So for every new thing that we do, we have to put, a new program into place. And so that was how we figured out, what was needed for the down payment assistance and how to make that work. So we did down payment assistance on those, and now we have sold 6 homes. We have another 5 that are going to be completed within the next 60 days. And we have really ambitious plans to get to 225 over the next few years.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Well, obviously, with your rental housing and homeownership and everything you're doing, you're supporting the community and helping people to stay where they've been their whole lives. But do you have any stories you could share? Do you have? I think our listeners would love to know, kind of how that works in real life.
Sure, absolutely. We've got a lot of great stories. For instance, one of our renters heard about us through her church, Antioch Baptist Church North. She's a lovely lady. She works at Spelman College. She had been living in the community for a long time and was really struggling as rents were increasing. And so her pastor told the congregation about Home on the West Side. She applied to be part of the program, and then we offered her an affordable unit at one of our renovated properties on English Avenue. And it's just a lovely property. It's a small 6-unit building, so it's very much of that kind of historic small building type that you see all through the neighborhood. So now she's got this place that she knows she can afford because she only pays 30% of her household income. And so she can, be comfortable that she can stay in the community that she's lived in for so many years.
Yeah, and that's so important. It's really kind of right sizing that mortgage or right sizing that rental rate to fit what the family can afford versus charging whatever you want to charge. And and that's not fair. It's like, because I know people don't charge whatever they want to, charging the market rate, which.
Sure. Right. Yeah. And, we know that there's, plenty of great, developers who do great market rate housing. But when you're really focused on trying to support people who are already in a community, who are at threat of being, kicked out of the community because they can't afford it, you really have to take the view of, we're going to make sure that people are not housing cost burdened.
Yeah. Well, and I know you approach your housing model a little differently. What makes the Westside Future Fund different than other affordable models around the country?
I think that there's a couple of things that differentiate us from other programs. One is that, we have a really big footprint that we're trying to serve the neighborhoods that I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not, sort of hyper focused on, one small neighborhood. But I think also the approach that we have to helping the existing homeowners, creating the affordable rental housing, creating the home ownership opportunities, and doing that all through a lens of community retention is what's unique about Westside Future Fund. It's not just, saying anybody from anywhere can, benefit from the housing that we're building, but that we're really very specifically focused on people who have ties to the West Side.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. Well, what are some of the Westside Future Fund's most urgent needs?
Well, as you may have heard, housing is expensive these days.
Really? No.
And,
yes.
It's so true. I mean, we've been purchasing properties since late 2018, and, we've just seen it with our own eyes, how much, land has gone up. And then over the last 24 months, how much construction costs have gone up.
Mm-hmm.
And so budgets that we were working with, 3 years ago are definitely not the same budgets we're working with today.
Right.
And, we are still committed to our goals. And along with that is, very ambitious fundraising goals, because, you simply can't do this level of affordability and commit to permanent affordability for the rental components without having a significant amount of philanthropy. So we really actively fundraise for philanthropic capital, because we pair that with low cost capital from our impact fund to make these projects come together.
Mm-hmm.
So our housing model is built on a public-private partnership where we raise philanthropic funds, we have our impact fund, and then we get, city or federal funds to put the whole project together, so that we know we're creating a sustainable housing model that can serve the community permanently.
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to donate or give, is that something as easy as just going to the website and doing that? Or do they contact somebody at Westside Future Fund, or how does that work?
Yes, they can go to westsidefuturefund.org and donate through our website.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit. I mean, obviously you're in the early stages of some of this. You've been working on some of it for a little while, but what does ultimately success look like for the Westside Future Fund?
I think success for us looks like a neighborhood where people care about each other, whether they're new or whether they've been there for decades, but where people are invested in the community, they're invested in each other, in their schools, in their homes, in their parks, and are kind of living this, vision of the beloved community, where everybody is celebrated, where the history is celebrated, and where families are really able to thrive because there's, high quality housing, because there's high quality schools, because there's great public amenities. That's what success looks like for us, is taking what's there and the people that are there and elevating all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it doesn't just become a new community. It's the community that was always there, but
Right.
it's, reinvigorated and reinvested in.
Yeah. So what else would you want our listeners to know about Westside Future Fund that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
I think that I'm not really sure how to answer that question. What would I want you all to know about?
Are there ways for them to get involved beyond giving money? Do you have any volunteer days where people actually work on any of the homes or help with mowing lots, or how does that work?
Yeah, one thing that I would actually love for people to know about is our Westside Volunteer Corps. So we find that volunteerism is so important in terms of getting people engaged and knowing one another. And where you put your time is also where you put your care and your concern. And that's another way of giving, right? It's not a dollar amount, but the giving of time and putting effort into something is really important for us. And so we have a very active volunteer program. You can also sign up to volunteer for events on our website. So we do community cleanup days, we do food drives, we do back to school supply drives. We work with companies to sponsor, volunteer days for their employees, but we also just have a number of people, from the community and from the greater Atlanta area who regularly come to give their time on the West Side, whether it's, doing some, cleanup in a park, or whether it's, taking adoption for a block and making sure that it looks great and that all of the trash is picked up, or volunteering at the local elementary school and helping them with their gardens, or volunteering at Truly Living Well, which is an urban farm that's also in the West Side. We try to come up with lots of ways to engage people from both inside and outside of the community.
Yeah, it sounds like there's lots of great opportunities there for getting involved and helping out, and really helping to build something that is a legacy for those people who've lived there their whole life. Residents, that's the word I'm trying to come up with.
That's right.
Residents who've always been there, getting to stay there as it grows and changes. And we always like to say the West Side is the best side because you've got all that cool development in the West Midtown area and, all the way down through all the different neighborhoods.
It really does have so much to offer, right? I mean, it's got all the cool new stuff and it's got all the cool old stuff.
Old stuff, right.
I mean, it's got the, HBCUs. It's where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lived. It's just got so much history. It's, palpable on every street that you walk down. And so, keeping them looking great is important to us. And, preserving and celebrating that history is equally important. And that's, oftentimes when somebody comes in and builds a new project, like a new housing project, what we've, heard in conversations with the community is that if you're already living there, you look at something new like that and you think, well, that's definitely not for me. That's for people who are going to come in from somewhere else.
Right.
And, that's not being built with me in mind. And so that's part of the reason that we do have a focus on renovating existing buildings and, kind of putting them back in service for the community. Because, we care about the history that's here and we are reminded of that which came before us.
Right.
And this is for you.
Well, that's fantastic. So kudos to you and all the hardworking people and volunteers at Westside Future Fund. I mean, I think that housing affordability is something that we're all just going to have to continue to focus on and work toward. And, all the builders struggle with it. Prices have escalated, even if you're building for market value, you still at this point, everything's become so expensive. It's priced so many people out of the market. So the struggle is real. We talked to somebody recently who said, it's shaving pennies off of everything you can shave it off of. It's not just dollars, it's pennies too. It's looking at everything and trying to figure out how to speed it up and do it faster and keep it within budget. And, and it's innovation. What other materials might you be able to use that might be less expensive or help you to do the job faster? So
yeah, value engineering is not just a concept anymore.
No, it's critical. So,
and, I can appreciate that because, it is at an all-time expensive, level to build, right? And so I think understanding that and understanding how market development works helps you understand on the flip side, what is different about affordable housing, right?
Right.
You still have the same cost structure, but you do not have the revenue that you have with a market rate development.
Right.
And that's why, fundraising from the private side, being able to bring public funding into projects is really absolutely essential to the success of any affordable housing effort. Because without that, you just can't get the project done. And if you do, you can't operate it sustainably.
Yep. Yeah.
So you have to be really thoughtful about that and very, very mindful of the numbers going in so that you can hit the affordability levels that you want to hit and know that you're not putting the project or the people who live there in peril some years down the road because you can't, keep
right.
to operate the project.
Yeah, because you certainly don't want to build something and have somebody commit to it that's going to put an undue financial burden on them in the future. So you want everyone to be successful. So.
Exactly right. And you don't want to have to go refinance it in 10 years and have to put more money into it, which
right.
would do to raise the rents. So we try to take a very thoughtful approach to how we finance the projects going in so that we can feel confident that we're able to keep them affordable on a permanent basis.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, we are going to have you back on at some point later in the year or next year to get an update on, all of your innovation and what's happened and, where you are on your success ladder as you build all of this out on the West Side.
I would be absolutely thrilled to do that. It's happening day by day and year by year, the change really builds. So I'd love to do it. Thank you.
Step at a time.
That's right.
Well, this wraps this week's Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio's All About Real Estate edition. I'd like to thank Rachel Carey, Chief Real Estate Officer of the Westside Future Fund, for joining us today. And on behalf of our show sponsor, New American Funding, I'm your host, Carol Morgan. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow us at AtlantaRealEstateForum.com. Feel free to like us and follow us on Facebook. And of course, you're welcome to download our show from Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, all of your favorite podcast apps. And if you are a YouTube follower, you can find us on YouTube. Make sure you click the little bell at the top to get notifications, and you'll be notified of all of our new videos. With that, thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you back here for our next episode.
Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio is made possible by Denim Marketing, the publisher of Atlanta Real Estate Forum, Atlanta's favorite source for real estate and home building news. Denim Marketing is a comfortable fit, like your favorite pair of jeans. Denim Marketing tailors marketing strategies to meet your specific needs and niche. Try them on for size. They will work to create a perfect fit for your company's marketing program. Call them at 770-383-3360 or send an email to info@denimmarketing.com. For more information on Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio or to inquire about being a guest, contact info@atlantarealestateforum.com. Check out the radio show by visiting atlantarealestateforum.com or by listening to the show on your favorite podcast app. And if you enjoyed today's broadcast, we'd sure appreciate a rating and review on iTunes. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio.